Hello and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. I am so delighted today to have Caroline Lampinen here with me to share her story with you. And if you have never met this person, Caroline is an artist, a runner, a writer, working and living in Baltimore, Maryland. She's been running a full-time mural business, OK Everything, since 2021 and founded a multi-artist studio space back in 2024, which is incredible. And I cannot wait to hear more about that. And when she's not painting or at the studio, she's distance running, reading, or spending time with her two rescue dogs, Bud and Blue. So cute. And prior to being a full-time creative, she had a 10-year career in public schools as a teacher and then a teacher coach, which gave her all kinds of invaluable management, business skills that she still uses in her business today. And her current favorite color is chartreuse, which I love. And I had to think about it, like, what color is chartreuse?
Yeah, it's a
I
good
love it.
one. It's the best
No.
one.
Yes. And I always love to share how I met people who end up being on this podcast because so much of it is just like the sparks. And I went to an event called Creative Mornings that's worldwide. If you've never been to it, highly recommend it. And that is where I met this beautiful human. And their studio was right upstairs. So I got a chance to see everything, peek around. And Carolyn, you were just so friendly and welcoming and had this just like brilliant, bright light. So thank you for being the person that you are in the world and saying yes to coming on the show today.
Oh my gosh, it's mutual. It's mutual. Yep. It was like little embers sparking around. I for sure. I feel the same way about you.
Nice. Well, I'd love to ask too of when you hear that phrase to follow your spark, what does that mean to you or what comes up for you when you hear that?
Truthfully, and like it's such interesting phrasing because I'm like a part of me is like, well, that's all I do. Like really reading it, I was like, that's literally my whole life. And then there's also part of me that's like, I never do it.
Mm,
Like
interesting.
I like, yeah. So I almost struggled with it because I was like, I've never considered myself a passionate person in terms of like having a goal or having one thing that I'm like, I'm meant to be a painter. I'm going to be a blah, blah, blah. Like I've never felt that way at all. I always have considered myself an opportunist, but I really like thinking about it because I'm like, it doesn't just have to mean like, you know exactly what you want. And then you watch, like you create a trailblaze behind you, or you see a burning building that you're running towards that you're excited about, whatever. Like for me, it's just like, no. Like now I'm like, Spark isn't a tiny thing and like they're everywhere and you can decide what one to go for. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of reframing passion for me and making me think about a lot of little things.
Mm,
Whereas originally I was like, it's one big phoenix or something.
yeah.
Mm.
Tell me more about this word opportunist. What does that mean to you?
I identify so hard as an opportunist. And again, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And like, I feel like there's so much pressure, and there was when I was growing up of like, find the thing, go to school for that thing, go get a career, make your money, etc. And like, my mom was really focused on job security and like having something concrete and all of this. And that has just never, ever, ever been the way that I operate in the world. I have
Yeah.
always been somebody where I I feel, and I'm trying to get better at owning that I actually put a lot of work into what happens to me, but I've always felt like opportunities just kind of land in my lap or something just shows up. And the older I get, the more I'm like giving myself more credit that no, I like scan the world and I'm like, oh, like there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about my studio and like even being a full-time artist. I didn't go out trying to be a full-time artist. I just noticed that it was becoming possible. And as you say, like followed my spark in that way. I think sparks and opportunities are arguably the same thing. So I usually don't go out with a single-minded goal to achieve the goal. I usually go out with an awareness and an openness, and then I follow the opportunities.
Yes, I love that so much. And for sure, I think spark and opportunity are very synonymous.
Hmm.
And being able to just be observant to see what is the thing calling me forward. And
Yeah.
so often you don't know that it's going to lead you wherever it's going to lead you 10 years from now. You
Yeah.
just know there's some little spark that's calling you forward.
Hmm.
So I love that metaphor or that word, and being able to also recognize that it's not just things landing in your lap. So what did you notice when you're like, okay, if I could take credit for something, what could you take credit for, of like being able to lean into those opportunities and maximize those opportunities?
I I was talking to a friend recently. I was assisting her on a mural in Annapolis, and this came up where she and I have like really different mindsets in terms of what we're capable of and like what we believe is possible. And we were and I don't know where the mindset came from, but I think the way to answer this is I think I have a very specific type of confidence. And when I think of the word confidence, I think of like attractiveness and like the way you walk into a room and like wearing high heels or whatever. And I'm like, that is not what I'm talking about at all. I think what I'm talking about is a way deeper sense of, even if nobody else values me or cares about me, like I have this innate confidence that I think I have always had. And I think I've been like hyper independent my whole life. Like I didn't have very close friends until like the last 5 years, honestly, like really close vulnerable friendships. And I think it's because I've always carried this really deep, like, people can be mean to me, people can be rude to me, I can do weird stuff or like dress weird ways and get all these responses. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do what is right by me. And because of that, I still get swept up in like expectations and what other people want ahead of myself. But obviously, the older I get, the better I am at listening to myself and intuition. Um, but I think because of this confidence, I can look at something and be like, do I believe I can make this work? Yes or no? And then no matter, and the studio really is a great example of like the rent was so high and it was insane, but I was like, I think I have the resources that this is going to happen. And
Yeah.
being I didn't intend to be an artist. I really didn't expect to be a full-time artist, but it was like the pieces just started to line up and I was like, well, I'm going to follow this. And like, I get part of it too is like understanding what my boundaries are. Like what I have said from the beginning of being a full-time artist is if I cannot contribute to my retirement account, I have no business doing this. Like I have this strict financial benchmark for myself where like I will not go into debt for this. I will not contribute to my long-term well-being. Granted, I'm not contributing as much as I would like to my retirement, but like I have to contribute at least $100 a month. And if I can't do that, I need to get a job. Um, and I think that's it. It's like this I've had a deep understanding of like what my own limits and boundaries are. And once I check against that, then it's really easy to be like, this is the right opportunity or this is the wrong opportunity.
Hmm. So it sounds like understanding what's important to you, what you value, and being able to weigh that against the opportunities that are crossing your path. And if it lights you up and it feels like you can still meet the other things that are important to you, you're going to take that risk, say yes,
Hmm.
lean in if it's calling you forward.
Yeah, yeah. And knowing that like I can turn on a dime. I've always been a really adaptable person, so like it's not hard. And not everybody's like this. I know but I like hate routine. I'm really good at change. I'm really good at being adaptable. So I'm like, if something doesn't work out, I have no problem being like, well, that didn't work out. Let me go do this other thing.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you feel like you always had this sense of innate confidence or belief? Like, was this always easy for you?
Hmm. I would say yes, but in different ways, like different capacities. Like I'm like so used to being only in artist mode, but I loved filling out your form before this podcast because I really enjoy thinking about my life in a big holistic way. I've only been an artist full time for five, 5 years, and there's so many other things that I've done. And I think I've always had an innate belief that I can do anything. And one thing my dad told me when I was like 18 was he was like, Caroline, you're gonna write your own job. Like you're gonna just walk in somewhere and write your own job. And I thought he was insane until I did it when I was like 25 and it actually happened. And now too, I clearly write my own job because I'm self-employed. But um, I think I always had a belief in myself and thanks to my parents for that.
Mm.
But I didn't always have the tools or the knowledge. I didn't always have the confidence of like, I like doing art, so I'm going to follow art. It was more like other people told me to go into education, so I did because it felt for a lot of reasons. But I've always had the confidence that if I choose to do something, I will be fine. But I didn't always have the confidence to go after the thing that I like really, really deeply wanted, or to even
Mhm.
acknowledge or understand what the thing was that I really, really deeply wanted. There's a lot of
Mhm.
surface confidence.
Yeah. What helped you build that?
So many things. I think experience, but most recently, I think I can really say moving to Baltimore, finding the right place for me. And then I think because I was in the right place, and Baltimore was the first place that I lived where I knew I was in the right place, but nothing else was working out. Like I didn't have a job that I liked. It took me forever to find a job. And even when I got a job, I didn't like it, but it was like what I needed at the time. But I knew I was in the right place. And I really now it took 9 years, but like everything has fallen into place. Like where I live, my running community, my art community. Um, yeah, I think finding the right place is what did it for me. That was the
How do you know
beginning.
some place is the right
I
place?
don't, bro, you know, for me, I could feel it in my body. Like I love adaptability. I love moving around. So I went to a lot of places. I lived in Arkansas for 6 years. I lived in Denver for a year. I spent summers in many different states. And all of them, I'm like, I really enjoy this. This is cool. But none of them hit me as like, I actually want to be here for a while. And I think part of that is age and part of that is life. But when I went to Mexico City for the first time, it was like almost instant. I showed up and I was like, I could live here and I want to live here. And before I moved to Baltimore, I was trying to move to Mexico City. That was really what I wanted to do. And then whole story of how I ended up in Baltimore, but ultimately a friend was like, you should move here. And I had only been here once for 3 hours. And when I showed up there, I don't even know. I arrived and it just was a feeling, it was a very sensory, like visceral, just feeling in my body that I knew that this was a place for me. And it was like with every passing day, it just got reaffirmed. And again, it was not because things were easy. Things were not easy at all. In fact, they were incredibly hard, but I just felt in my body that it was right.
Yeah.
Like long term right. And I had never felt long term right anywhere before.
Yeah. So being able to recognize these like bodily sensations. And for me, so much of that spark is like a felt sense. It
Hmm.
doesn't always make sense. And there's just something that resonates or feels like it clicks, even if the mind like cannot fathom.
Yeah.
And if people are listening to this and they're like, well, I don't know how to feel that. What is that? How do you connect with your intuition? Like, this is also one of the reasons why I created a resource on my website all about intuition. And one of the tools is muscle testing and being able to tune into your body in this felt sense. So if you're listening right now and you're like, how do I do this? Go to ginakesbar.com/intuition. And if you've ever used Oracle cards, you can kind of like choose, there's 5 different cards that you can let yourself be led to that has 5 different intuitive practices to help you develop this muscle so that people can do what you're saying
Hmm.
and recognize, oh, I have a felt sense or I have an inner knowing or like something is calling me here and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I piggyback on that? I
Please.
think it's so important. That really resonates. And I think also if somebody's listening, they might be like, well, how do I find the right place? And I think what I would say to that is like, it's not about finding the right place. Because before I got to Baltimore, for example, Arkansas, I was sent to Arkansas through a program that I did for 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, I was in rural Arkansas, town of 3,000 people, like a place I did not come from the South, like very foreign environment to me.
Mhm.
And I knew it was not time for me to leave yet. I had a feeling of unfinished business. And it was not a feeling like I belong here, I'm going to be here forever, but it was a feeling that like I knew I was not done. And it was some of the hardest experiences I've ever had in my life, but I knew I needed to stay there. So like I also think part of it is letting yourself having that knowing and that intuition about whatever part of your life in this moment is giving
Mhm.
you that. And sometimes it's a place, sometimes it's a job, sometimes it's a friendship, it might be family for people, like
Yeah.
whatever that is. And I think not getting stuck on finding the one, like I think I spent a good amount of time looking for the right career and the right job when that's
Mm.
just not what I needed to be doing in my life for a long time too. I think I was in like jobs and career was really hard for me for like 6 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
But like all of those skills are so important to what I'm doing now. But I couldn't have ever guessed that I would be in
Yeah.
this place.
Yeah, what I'm hearing too is, and I asked you the questions about place because I do have people in my life who I'm thinking about who are wondering of like, where is my place? Looking
Hmm.
for a new city and all these things. And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is potentially letting go of feeling like you need to find the perfect city for the rest of your life or the perfect job for the rest of your life. And it's just like, what's calling you right now?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
allowing yourself to be there now and get whatever it is for you to get from that chapter, that job, that phase, and trust that it's going to evolve. Your path is going to evolve from here.
And take the pressure off because probably the pressure of obsessing over it is what's getting in the way. Like,
Yeah,
probably. I could be wrong, but
definitely probably one of the things.
yeah,
Uh,
that's what happens to me at least.
yeah. And I'm curious too of is there anything that helped you navigate uncertainty? Because you talked about when you first got to Baltimore, it took you forever to find a job, things weren't clicking, it was hard. Like what helped you feel that felt like yes, and also navigate when things like weren't going how you thought or just were uncertain?
Yeah. I have so much uncertainty in my life most of the time. And so, one, I think experience that I'm just used to it. And I'm not scared of it. Like, I think
Yeah.
accepting it, like, one, I didn't have this mantra until the last like year, probably from therapy, but I can get really, like most of us, I think, trapped in emotions or trapped in fear. And it's so helpful for me to say feelings are temporary because they are. They feel
Mhm.
so all consuming, but uncertainty is temporary. And the more I tell it, like, rewires my brain to be like, oh, I feel uncertain right now. But I think the fear comes from like, I'm going to feel uncertain forever. And that's just not true. You're going to
Yeah.
feel uncertain and then uncertain again about the exact same things, and like
Yeah.
it all ebbs and flows. So one, I think, is not being scared of that feeling.
Yeah.
And then another one, what popped to my brain right away is I am a writer, and I use that. It's not like you're going to go find published books yet from me, but I've always been incredibly compelled to write, and I've been a journaler since I was like 8, like a really incessant journaler. And when I moved
I've
to
seen your
Baltimore,
journals.
yeah, you have. Yeah, they're in my studio for anyone listening. Like half of them. There's so many more than that. It's disgusting. And I started on paper when I was a really little kid, and as young as 6th grade is when I started journaling online, and that has made me some money. I've like, and it's kind of like a fringe part of my life, but that has made a really big difference. Like when I was in Arkansas, I was like the top 3 blogger in the community that I was in, and like got to meet the CEO of Scholastic because it was really weird. And then uh, when I was doing that as a teacher, I had new teachers come up to me and be like, "You're Caroline in the Delta?" Like that was my name. Like people, and then like, so if you Google my name, one of the top results is going to be my old Medium, and you can read all about my experiences when I first moved to Baltimore. I was so uncertain. The posts are wild. Like you can really read exactly what was happening. So I think for me, a way to get through uncertainty is documenting it. And then
Mm,
having that record to go back. Now I'm like, September is when I hit my 9-year anniversary, and I want to go back and read those posts because to compare where I was 9 years ago and where I am now is going to be wild. But like, right, I would say having faith and trust that the uncertainty is temporary, and then writing about it. Those
yes.
are the ways I get through everything. I write just so much.
Yeah, I love that. And it's actually what you talked about with emotions is a huge thing that I teach in my coaching work as well as in this workshop that I have coming up called Believe, that I find so much of what prevents people or holds people back from believing, from going after a big dream, from being in action, stepping outside their comfort zone, is this resistance to emotions.
Yeah.
Uncertainty, fear, doubt, anxiety, these are all things that oftentimes we would rather not feel. And
Mm-hmm.
when we give ourselves permission to feel them and just allow them to be there and know that I'm not going to die
Yeah.
with this emotion is not going to consume me for the rest of my life. That's also something that I hear often from coaching clients of this fear of like, if I feel it, it's just going to last forever. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that oftentimes the opposite happens of
Yeah.
when we give ourselves space to feel it, it doesn't have the same like grip on us. We're
Mm-hmm.
not in such resistance to it. So being able to know that, yeah, emotions are likely going to come along for the ride, especially if we're stepping out into the unknown. And
Mm-hmm.
the more you give yourself space to feel that, the more willing you will be to take those courageous actions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
And
love
who knows what's going to come out of it, like friendships or artwork or whatever. Like, so, so much of the most beautiful artwork is from the most challenging feelings. And that, but
absolutely.
working through it. That's
Yeah.
literally, I found myself, I went through a really, really huge breakup last year, and I would Google how to sit with my emotions. Like I would Google it and follow the steps. Like because some
Yeah.
I get pretty bad like task paralysis or whatever paralysis, and sometimes Googling the most inane thing, like things that you're like, what? It really because I'm like I just need somebody to tell me what to do, and if
Yeah.
Google is it, I will follow those instructions. And you're right, it feels like it's going to be all consuming, but if you process through it, it's not. It's actually so much. Sometimes I'm like, this grief is going to be real big. It's going to last forever. And as soon as I let myself cry, it's like 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm going to go for a run.
I feel
Like,
better now.
yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And if you're listening to this and you've ever Googled how to feel your feelings, I will put a meditation in the show notes
Please.
about how to feel your
Thank
feelings.
you.
So
I
I'll
will
put
listen to
some
that.
resources down there if you've ever Googled that
I would
yourself.
way rather be guided by you than a Google Gemini synthesis.
There we go. The other thing I want to share that you pointed out about journaling and like record keeping,
Mm,
I think a lot about evidence in multiple ways.
yeah.
One, I track a lot of like intuitive evidence of signs that I get and messages that I get so that I have now 5+ years of journals that have records of this. So I can see what
Mm,
happens and train my brain when it's like, oh, I'm scared to go down, follow this intuitive spark. It's like, yeah, but look at the past 5 years of what happened when you did.
yeah.
So, A, that,
Hmm.
uh, and B, being able to find, like you said, of 9 years ago, where you're at now compared to where you were then. When we look at our past and see how we've overcome challenges, how we've navigated uncertainty, how we've gotten through hard times, that can give us proof that we're capable of doing it again. Because so often when people are thinking about, I want to do this thing that I've never done before, I don't know how to do it, the brain wants that how, but you can actually look at your past for the how. And it
Hmm.
might not be the exact steps that your logical brain might think it wants, but it's steps. It's a map that shows you how you've overcome things. So I'm curious too of like, as you have all of your journals,
Hmm.
what difference has that made to kind of look at your past and see how far you've come and see how you've grown?
Well, I do really try to avoid opening the journals. They're so every once in a while, when I was younger, I would like mail them away. My ex has a couple of them, et cetera, et cetera. But I will, well, and I'm actually going to kind of say the opposite of your question, which is it's also really helpful to see the patterns of like, oh, I'm doing this again. Like I'm doing this again. Which is not always bad. Um, some like it's helped me be like, oh, this is my pattern is to enjoy change and to move around. And like, and I've so to answer your question too, is like I love change. I put myself through cross country moves with no contacts many times, like so many times. And where like if it doesn't fit in my car, it doesn't come. I've sold my belongings so many times and I enjoy that and being like, oh yeah, like I moved to rural Arkansas. Like a lot of people are like, what? Like what when they find this out about me? And then now I live in Baltimore. People are just like I own a house in the middle of the city. um, I think looking back it helps me find this is very much what you were just saying, but like finding patterns through things that on the surface look incredibly different, but in
Mhm.
reality are a pattern. So like when I was in Arkansas, it really took a very long time to find my footing. I was really bad at my job for 2 years. That's part of why I stayed longer than 2 years, is because I refused to leave, feeling like I was a bad teacher, and I became a very like an award nominated teacher, um, because I was like, I can't finish, I can't leave like this. And then that translates to Baltimore, where I moved to Baltimore. I didn't have the job handed to me here, but it felt right. And I was like, I know something's gonna happen. Something is right about this. And it
Mhm.
took years. My first job was
Mhm.
at a bowling alley, like, and I had a master's degree. I was working for $13 at an hour at a bowling alley. So like ego, realizing that checking my ego always relates to something big and something exciting. So I think
Mhm.
pattern recognition is like the biggest thing to go
Mhm.
back in the positive. and sometimes in the negative, being like, why am I doing this to myself again?
Mhm.
Let's
Mhm.
try this different this time.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in our past. There's so much that we can learn about ourselves, both in seeing, like you said, patterns that maybe you want to rewrite or
Hmm.
do differently, as well as patterns that can help remind you of, like, okay, yeah, sometimes things take time and I'm willing to work for things and I trust that it's all going to work out no matter what. I have all this evidence of all of that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that.
Hmm.
And another thing that you shared before we got on this podcast, and I'm curious to hear more about, you talked a lot about friendships.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about how belief, what you believed is possible about relationships, about community, about friendships, like how has your belief changed about relationships maybe in the past decade?
This is such a big one. And I've been thinking about this so much because I want to be very careful about honoring the older friendships I have, who of like people I love, and honoring my family and like how much I love them and obviously how impactful they've been in my life. And also giving credit where credit is due that truly, well, this is nice to process real time. The friends I've built, like the friendships I've built in the last 5 years, and that they have mutually built back, are markedly different than any other friendships I've had in my life. And I'm sure age is part of it, but I
Mhm.
not all of it, because I think there are people that have been able to do this way earlier than me for different
Mhm.
reasons. And for me, um, I think on my actually, so all a bunch of things work together at the same time. COVID, buying a house, which means a level of permanency that I've never had anywhere else. Um, Quitting my job and quitting the entire education space to be, I didn't know this at the time. I didn't quit to be an artist. I quit and then I accidentally became an artist. Um, but all of those happened simultaneously, and joining my running community in Baltimore. I've always been a runner, but I had never been part of a running community outside of 1 year of cross country in high school where I didn't feel like I fit in with those girls at all. Um,
Mhm.
but those things, so saying this out loud, I think choosing to choose myself, I think for arguably the first time in my life,
Mhm.
um, that happened both like as a runner and being part of a running community. I was part of the soccer community for a while. Like I played pickup soccer in Baltimore and I had a good time, but those were never really my people. But when I joined this run crew, it's called a Tribe Called Run in Baltimore. It's a really great place. If anybody wants to come hang out with me. It's amazing. Um, but it was like very quickly, I'm like, oh my God, these are my people. And I always describe it as community first, running second. And
Mhm.
it's like health over drinking, or like a lot of things that people
Mhm.
do in their 20s and 30s and 40s. Um, and then becoming an artist and putting myself out of the education space and into the art space and being like, oh my God, my people. I just finally was in a place. And I have found my people in undergrad and as a teacher and all this. It's not like I have really powerful friendships there, but they're different. They're just different. And once I was in these communities, I found myself, I think for the first time, being truly authentically vulnerable. I think
Mhm.
my entire life up until that point, I was incredibly hyper independent. I was climbing career ladders. I was getting more and more education. I was like trying to prove myself in all these ways that I felt like I needed to. And when I joined the art community and the running community, it was the first time that I think I was not trying to prove anything to anyone. I was just existing and being opportunistic and being like, what can happen here?
Mhm.
Um, and it's, and then the people that just choose to be in those spaces, it was almost like they wouldn't let me not believe in their authenticity. The way, and it shows I can't even, the house I'm in right now is one of my running friends' parents' house that she's invited me. So like I'm in New Jersey, I'm not in Baltimore right now, but like I wouldn't be in this house if I didn't join that run crew 5 years ago. That's
Mhm.
when I met her.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, we can take this in whatever direction you want, but the level of vulnerability and mutual reciprocation, and I think age comes into play because also all of my close friends right now have done the work. They've all been in years in therapy. They're all really emotionally mature. They all are really good at saying no. Like, again, this house, I was like, can I come at 1 in the morning on Monday night, or do I have to come on Tuesday in the afternoon after sleep? And she was like, you cannot come at 1 in the morning. Like, I'm asleep. And I was like, great. And like, how many friends do you know that would never tell you that? You know what I mean? They would be like, I guess, okay, let me be really inconvenienced. And this friend was like, no, dude, come tomorrow. And I was like, perfect. Thank you for telling me what you need. But like, that's such a small thing in hindsight. But I
Yeah.
have so many other friends that would never tell me that. And I think boundaries are an incredibly important part of true vulnerability and true friendship. And I think boundaries is something that my family really doesn't do very well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think what part of what intrigued me most about what you wrote, because partially because I'm thinking about this for myself,
Yeah.
is that, I feel like growing up, I was very much like most of us, just inundated with the idea of, okay, you grow up, you get a career, you get married, you have children, this is what life looks like, boom, boom, boom. And I've literally done like none of those things.
Same.
And I don't intend to have children.
Same.
Entrepreneur, I work for myself, like all these things.
Hmm.
So I feel like I've really been invited my whole life to reimagine what do I want my life to look like? What do I
Yes.
want relationships to look like? And just in the past few years, even when I've really like decided like, okay, for real, I'm not having children, be able to think about what do relationships look like? Like what do I want to believe about relationships? What do I
Hmm.
want to believe about community, about friendships? So it really just like intrigued me and spoke to me that you talked about friendships being this form of deepest love. And I feel
Yeah.
like I'm seeing this in the collective as well,
Yeah.
this increased exploration of this, of just what does community look like, what does support look like, and decentering just marriage and this one person to be our like end all be all, and being more open to how do we create a more community centered, friendship centered society where we're valuing all kinds of relationships. So yeah, I was curious of like how have your beliefs maybe changed, or
Hmm.
what was that journey like for you?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. All of that. Yes. And like, again, in Arkansas, like I have so many of my students. I was 22 and I taught sixth graders. Many of my former students are married and have kids and have jobs. And I'm like watching them, do the life escalator thing that I will never do. And I went through this big breakup. It was a heterosexual relationship. We were planning on having a kid and getting out of it. I was just talking about this morning on the run with my friend of like, I'm never going to have kids. I don't want to have biological kids. I really don't. I don't want to raise a child right now. I might want to be a foster parent later. I think I will, but that's a different topic. Um, and so much. So I was in a serious long-term heterosexual relationship for 7.5 years, and we both got into it. I think with that, you get married, you have kids. We were like figuring out our careers, blah blah blah. He's amazing. I love him. He's great. And it was the wrong relationship for both of us. And now, being a year and a half out of it, already my friendships. Oh my God, I'm going to tell you a story that might make whatever. That a really silly story. So, my best friend's name is Kate. And she just brought this up, or we mutually brought it up a while ago. There was this time that I came home. This was like before we were engaged. It was like probably 4 or 5 years into the relationship. And I came home one day and he was like, Caroline, he was like, if you had to be stranded on a deserted island and you could only have one person with you, he was like, would you choose me or would you choose Kate?
Bad question to ask if you really want to know the
I
answer.
just lost my mind. I was like, you cannot ask me this. That's unfair. You cannot. And like truly, Gina, the answer was Kate. The answer was hands
Clearly.
down, absolutely Kate. I would want Kate there. I love this man, but like, I would want Kate. Like, and that will always be my answer. And then like through therapy and all these things, I started to really realize that like, and I wrote the like, and I've said this to her over and over. Kate is my standard of what love is. I did not and part of it is because of the work she's done and her own emotional maturity. That's a lot of it because we are very different people and we have really different ideas about the world, and like we approach the world really differently, and we are able to own ourselves and like own our own feelings and emotions and push on each other.
Mhm.
and still deeply support one another. And like we other friends have commented to us often about how healthy our conversations are. We give each other feedback all the time. We're willing to stand up to each other and lay down when we like we're good at understanding that. We talk about literally everything. I've never had that with another person. And there are things about each other that bother us that will always bother. Like I'm late to everything. She's on time to everything. I was supposed to work out with her on Monday and I slept through my alarm. And like I know she's mad at me for it and I'm mad at myself for it, but also we still love each other, you know? And that friendship taught me how to slowly bring that into other friendships.
Mhm.
And it gave me this brand new benchmark that again I had never had in my life of like, if you don't treat me the way she's treating me, then then what am I doing? And if I don't treat myself the way, the grace and the love and the accountability, like she doesn't let me
Mhm.
get away with everything, I'm gonna know she's upset that I slept through my alarm. I'm gonna keep that in mind moving forward. Um, like if you can't have that level of self-awareness and that level of personal work, and if you can't hold me accountable to being a
Mhm.
better person and encourage me and love me and celebrate me, like so many of my weird quirk, like she calls me a gremlin. I'm known as a gremlin and a chaos monster, all these things with my friends. But to it was this past couple years is the first time that I have been identified as that, but also celebrated for it. Like I
Mhm.
feel like much of my life, and it's only in hindsight that I can really pick this out, much in my life I was treated like an alien. And I like self-identify as Stitch. I self-identify as like, like I have felt that way most of my life, but these years in Baltimore are the first time that people they're like, I see you, I see that you have these behaviors and that this is who you are, and I love you for it. And
Mhm.
like I had never even my family is like, get a job. Like my mom was just always like, get a regular job. Like, can you please calm down and get a job? And like
Yeah.
my friends are like, finally you quit that job you hate and I knew you were like you needed to be an artist the whole time. Like my running friends literally like very much witnessed the transition and so did Kate. And yeah, I think it's about finding the right people and choosing to let yourself be around the people that have done the
Yeah.
work and then starting to Kate's just my benchmark for everybody now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so beautiful.
Yeah, I
So,
wish that for everyone. I do, and I plenty of people have that in their partner. I never
mhm.
did, and like, good on everyone who figured this out before I did. I happen to
Yeah,
be like 33.
it's all good. So, if people are listening right now and they are thinking, wow, I would really love to follow whatever it is that's sparking me right now. I would really love to not listen to the people around me who are telling me, like, just do this, just do that, and actually listen to me. What message would you want to leave them with if they were like really wanted to believe something was possible and actually like lean towards it?
I a thing I have done more and more lately, um, even if you're not a writer, I would say do the exercise of splitting. So the therapy that I do is called internal family systems. It's also called parts work. And it's like the concept that we all have different parts of ourselves. So there's like me as a daughter, me as a sister, me as an artist, me as a teacher, me as whatever. And what I would do is like get your most doubt filled, uncertain, fearful self and really identify with that person and then get the most confident person who is that dream 5 years from now, like really embody that person and have a written conversation with each other. And like
Mm,
I have done that. I've when I was going through my breakup and like the really dark moments of that, I would do that. I would like, and I've done this with a lot of, I did this about having kids. I like wrote to myself as the
mhm.
person that never chose to have kids and the person that chose to have kids. And it's shocking what comes
Yeah.
out when you really embody and really think as if the decision has already been made or the life is already happening. And there are things that like I thought I was wanted to be like a career climber because I've always been an overachiever. Like I'm a really achievement oriented person, but I hate bureaucracy and I can't handle somebody being in charge. I cannot handle a boss. I've never been good at bosses. Um,
Mhm.
and like having those conversations with yourself and being giving yourself permission to be honest in both directions because sometimes like we don't want to be as scared as we really are. We don't want to own how terrifying it is to be a human, and then we also don't want to own the arrogance and the ego, just like I was talking about earlier with like the light meditation you did of like it's crazy for me to own that me just existing as a person that's an artist can do something for somebody else. Me just positive like it's scary to own that without feeling arrogant.
Mhm.
Um, but
Mhm.
to have those conversations with yourself without whatever the topic is incredibly enlightening, and it's applicable to
Mhm.
anything.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good. And I'm hearing the both, like you said, of not resisting the
Hmm.
part of you who is terrified, who is scared, who is having all of those feelings, because I do think that is important.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people are just trying to like pretend that they feel empowered all the time, it's like, and ignore that part is still there. It's still gonna impact you in some way. So
Hmm.
being able to give it love and acknowledge it and recognize, like, yeah, that's part of the human experience. And there's also this part of me who's already done it, who's totally empowered, who's totally capable, who is this inspiration for yourself as well as the people around you.
Hmm.
So being able to give space to both of those things and feel more into that person that you do want to become and that you
Hmm.
do want to embody. So I love that invitation to do this journaling practice. And if folks are listening, I actually am guiding people through a very similar practice at Believe coming
Hmm.
up on July 14th. So this episode is going to air right before this.
Love
So if
that.
you're listening to this, sign up because I'm going to guide you through a meditation to connect with your future self and really feel, what does it feel like to be this person? Because
Hmm.
that for me is so much of belief, of just being able to imagine it, because
Hmm.
sometimes it can feel so hard to imagine, and if it feels impossible, then we're likely not going to do anything about it. But if
Yeah.
we can just like grasp of like, I could see that some version of me is capable of that.
Hmm.
So
I
if you're
think,
listening, yeah.
yeah, and that I want to also say the sometimes the scared side needs to win. Like sometimes
Mhm.
fear is not, it's always self-protective, but I tend to be what came out a lot in therapy for me and parts work for me is like manager Caroline, the Caroline that wants achievement, that wants to push everything forward. Sometimes she's a huge bully, and she's like, she won't let me sleep, she won't let me eat, she won't let me have friends, she won't, like, all these things. And sometimes the one that's being bullied, the one that's scared, really just needs basic needs met. And like sometimes you need to let yourself rest for 4 straight days. And that is
Yeah.
not being weak or scared. It's actually just meeting basic needs. And then you can give more space for the empowered. Like the empowered you needs to be a holistic. So if you lean that way, know that like the scared part of you is not inherently bad or negative.
Yeah.
They're protecting you. That somebody who's scared is scared for a reason always, and giving that
Yeah.
person grace, not violence or bullying. I'm a great bully to myself, as most of us are.
Mm.
So like
Yeah.
being mindful and checking for that as well.
Yeah. And it's the same of like the same way that you can fast forward to your future most empowered self. I find often that like scared self, if you think of it like a child, it's like, how would
Yeah,
you treat a child who's like, I'm
exactly.
scared? You want to be like,
Exactly.
I mean, maybe
Mhm.
some people like get it together, but you'd
Mhm.
probably be loving to them, be like, okay, do you need a nap? Like, what do you need
Yes.
right now? How
What,
can
do
I
you need a
help you?
snack? Do you need
Do you
a
need a
hug? Like
snack?
hugging
Like,
yourself is powerful. Yeah.
yeah. So absolutely being able to love all parts. And I know that there's a lot of layers in this. And this is why like we break this down. So I just want to say too, if you're listening to this, if you're intrigued by that event Believe, go to GinaKatsbara.com/believe and join us. We're going to break down why this fear can show up, why self-doubt can show up, and what can help you actually build belief in like a tangible, embodied way. So
Love
check it
that.
out if it feels to you. And I would love to hear too if people want to learn more about you, if they maybe want to hire you for a mural or check out your artwork, like how can they find you? How can they engage with you?
So there are three major ways to find me, and like three major ways I show up. Well, maybe four ways I show up in the universe, in specifically in Baltimore. Well, no, not specifically. Okay, so as a professional, my career side is okay everything. You can find me on Instagram at okay_everything, and on the internet at okeverything.com. That's me. That's me. That's my business. That's my livelihood. That is how you hire me for a mural or a window or whatever. And then also professionally, I am on staff for Brush Mural Fest. So I have to plug that, which is Brush Mural Fest on Instagram and the internet. It's a really great, predominantly women and non binary people festival. We have a couple of men in there that are worthy. um, and because, as most industries are, the mural industry is heavily, heavily dominated by men. And then my studio space, which is me and currently one, two, three, four. soon to be five other permanent artists, and then two other artists as well. So about seven of us, eight of us. That's Everything Studio Baltimore on Instagram, or the Everything Studio is our website. And we do doodle dates on Thursdays, open to the public, free open to the public, 9 to 11 a.m. And we started yoga this week, which is Monday nights at 8:30. And
Mhm.
then my last thing is I've talked about my run crew a lot. I'm on the board for my run crew. I'm like a behind the scenes person, but it's a really, really lovely place. If you're new to running, or if you're a seasoned runner, if you're curious about running, or if you just want strong community, that's called A Tribe Called Run.
Mhm. One thing I will say too, I went to a doodle date and it was so fun and everyone was so nice and so welcoming. And I find sometimes that when people might hear about an event like that or a space like that, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, but that's not for me. That's like
Yeah,
for creative
yeah,
people. Like I can't come there. I don't know anyone there." And I
right.
went to this event last night that was all about connection and like building connection in Baltimore and just this reminder that if you are listening to this and you are in Baltimore and you're like, "What's a doodle date? I want to come
Mhm.
to a doodle date." You can go.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear too of like if someone wants to go to a doodle date, how do they sign up? How do they come? How do they get like the information that they need to show
Yeah.
up for these events that you talked about?
That's a great question. So, our Monday yoga class it's a woman named April Lewis, who her yoga practice is called Air Buddy Yoga, and she has a sign up through Calendly that is linked on our Instagram. Doodle Day is a bit different because it's both really open and a kind of closed, because I've done a number of just widely open to the public events. One of those is my open studio that we do quarterly. That is just any and everybody. And I'm not saying we're closed off, because we're not. But what I am saying is that it's intentional people that we want in that space, because we're very protective over the space. So if you're already interested, if you're listening and interested, chances are very strong that we want you there, like please. But you have to be somebody that's willing to like show up. Like we're not, like I don't, it's not the type of thing where we have like a 50 RSVP on Eventbrite and 10 people show up. It's
Mhm.
something that like we really want people that are connecting. And it's interesting because this is a bit of me, but I'm learning how to be a little bit more exclusive. I'm a chronic includer. I'm a
Mm,
huge networker, and it burns me out. And it means that sometimes vibes are abused because I didn't have always the right boundaries that I needed, or people are
mm,
taking advantage of me or the spaces that I've built. So
mhm.
again, it's not that it's like totally exclusive, but it's just like talk to me. So, and it
Yeah,
says this on Instagram, like literally all you have to do is send a DM and then
yeah.
I give you the information. We have a very big Instagram group text that Gina is part of
Mhm,
now.
mhm.
And basically just send me a DM. I'll put you in that group text, and that, because also the week that Gina went, I was out of town. I wasn't even there. And then this week too, we had two new people show up, and I was here in New Jersey. So it's not always me, but that helps me put you in touch with the people that will be in the space. Um, and we want you there. We just want you to be intentional. And I'm
Yeah,
like, it's really hard for me to not say that and feel bad about it, but I'm practicing being like,
yeah,
no, everybody needs to have a standard, a thing that they want, a
yeah,
boundary, an expectation.
yeah.
So reach out. All you have to do is reach out,
Yeah. I
and we'll
feel like
get you in.
we could have a whole other podcast
Yeah.
conversation about this, but I feel called to just like plug there's something magical that happens when you just show up and like
Hmm.
intentionally like you said. And so I don't know, I host so many events and I hear people say I want to come, I want to come, I want to come for like months or years and then
Yeah.
never come, and then they come and they're like, why didn't I come
Yeah,
so like
that's me with your
earlier?
potluck. I'm like, I need to sign up for the potluck. I want to be there. But also, I think like
Yeah,
divine timing, like
sure.
you do the thing when you're ready to. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have the internal thing. Or I literally just in the last 2 weeks, I had two different artists there's this artist on Instagram. I've been following her for years. We've been mutually following each other. She has like 40,000 followers and I have like 3,000. And I always see her as kind of a celebrity. And I was like, we talked about something else briefly, and then I was like, you should come to Doodle Day. And for me, I feel like a little tiny baby being like, if you have the time, like maybe come to Doodle Day. And you know what her response was? Her response was, I always thought you were kind of a celebrity. Like, I want to come, but I'm actually really shy. And I was like, what? Like, I would never have thought that in a million years.
Yeah.
So it's often very mutual that like we're
Yeah.
eyeing each other, being like, but you're so cool, and so like friend crushing so
Yeah.
hard in both directions. Um, And I'm somebody like, I won't go somewhere by myself. I won't do it. I would never go to a doodle date on my own. So kudos to you. But I would grab Kate and be like,
And I'm
Kate,
like at the door,
yeah,
like, is
I
there
know you do. You couldn't even get in. Yeah. And like, that's just,
the
yeah.
janitor
So
let me in? Like,
right, which is amazing. And I love that. I love that. Like we all have our different, but I would be the instigator that would find three friends and be like, we're all going to this together. And then I would be
yeah,
10 minutes later than them, even though I was the one. Anyway, so yeah, come.
I love it.
Talk to me. I will make you feel included via Instagram. I promise. I'm very good at doing that once we've touched base. Or come and bring a friend and show up that way. But yeah, because it's a locked building, you do have to talk to me to understand how
Yeah.
to get in.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last thing I feel called to say too, of just in terms of belief, of believing that you have something to offer. Like you just said with this
Mm,
person, we so often are like, oh, they're so great. I believe in them. It's so easy to believe in other people, something outside of me, versus no, I'm incredible. I have
yeah.
incredible value to offer. I have incredible gifts to offer. I am just as worthy and amazing as any other person that I could be turning that outward lens on. So, anytime you notice yourself like putting someone else on a pedestal, just asking yourself, like, what about me? What do I want to believe about myself? So, that's the last thing I want to
Mm,
say. And
love
I'm
that.
curious if there's anything else that's coming to your mind right now, any last nugget before we say goodbye, anything you want to say.
I think that I just am so happy to be here and so honored to be asked to be here. It brings me so much joy. I'm so happy that I got to meet you. And yeah, come to my studio, come hang out. We're gonna have another open studio at the end of October, and then the one after that will be in January, and it's amazing. I hope to meet anybody listening to this. And Gina, I can't wait to get to know you better. Thank you for having me. You're so
My
delightful.
pleasure. All right, my friends. Well, we'll talk to you soon.